Test, 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 test.
I'd like to call the Finance Committee meeting to order. The action item to approve the Finance Committee meetings minutes of August 22nd, 2024. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion's approved. Meeting's adjourned. Pass this down, please.
Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. Bruce Bartlett, please and thank you.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we will go to our consent items. If I could have a motion for approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we will move forward with the action items. The first thing is to approve the community council's appointments. And Ms. Garcia, there she is.
Good afternoon. Yaridis Garcia, Community Engagement Manager. It is my pleasure today to introduce to you two new applicants for the Mid-County Community Council. The first one is Brenda Carvalho. Ms. Brenda graduated from St. Petersburg College 25 years ago with a nursing degree. Ms. Carvalho is currently the Director of Women's and Children's Services for Bay Care, Morton Plant Hospital in Clearwater, and Miss Countryside Hospital in Safety Harbor. Brenda is a member of Sacred Heart Catholic Church. She is married to husband Jack for 30 years and has two daughters, Braylene, and probably I'm not going to pronounce her name, Candice. Her families have lived in Pinellas Park for over 40 years. Ms. Carvalho enjoys collaborating with other partners to help improve the lives of the families and children served in our community. Our second applicant is Helena Van Otto. She works at PEMS as the Marketing and Development Director. She's a highly accomplished professional with a robust background in marketing, business, sales management, business development, and philanthropy, with an MBA in multiple certifications, including Certified Grant Writer, Certified Nonprofit Executive. Helena has a proven expertise in public relations, general management, and supervisory skills. I would like to welcome both of them. They're here. If you have any question upon approval, we will have 38 active community councils across Pinellas County.
Any questions from the board? Stand. Ladies, Ms. Beth is asking if you could stand so she could see. Welcome.
Everybody can?
Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? See how quickly that happened? Next, we will ratify the Finance Committee recommendations. Mr. Robbie Stivers, I'm sorry.
Members of the board, Chief Executive Officer, Ms. Houghton. My pleasure to present to you the ratification of the Finance Committee recommendations. As of August 22nd was our last meeting. And I'm going to scroll through this. Changes since the FY25 preliminary budget was presented to the board on July 18th. Changes in revenue involve a decrease in fund balance, which was a strategic decrease in fund balance by $2.6 million and some change. Also, a decrease in interest expense. When fund balance goes down, obviously, the interest expense will go down too as that balance declines. So a total for the decrease in revenues is $2.272,000. Changes in expenditures, $25,000 in behavioral health. This is an increase slightly above the prior amount that were presented to the board, and it's for the Mental Health Institute, and it's the fee that they charge for us being a part of that, JWB being a part of it. The other expenditure is in administration. $68,400 of that was for contractual services. It's due to the Foresight contract, our new strategic planning initiatives that are underway, as well as $48,750 for the upcoming market survey that may indicate that we have lagging wages. We'll have to make some salary adjustments there, so we wanted to make sure that we had the budget for that. Subtotal for the changes in expenditures since their July 18 meeting is $142,150. This is the 2025 budget that we're voting on today. And the center column here, I've highlighted the different line items within the budget that reflect the changes that I just mentioned in the previous slide. Particularly, I wanted to note at the bottom is these are the reserves that by board policy that we're required to keep on hand. Our beginning fund balance is here about $54 million, and $33 million of that is for the reserves that we're required to keep on hand per board policy. I think this is the point where we're moving for approval.
We have any questions before we move for approval? Hearing none, do I have a motion for the approval of the FY25 budget?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You can go on with your second action item.
Thank you. Item 3B of your board packet, these are policy changes that we're recommending to the board. In V11 for fund balance, the current policy shows, as I indicated, unassigned fund balance shall be targeted for the 3 months of operating expenses. These are the reserves by board policy we're required to keep on hand. The unassigned is the only word that's changing there, being that they're in board policy, they're assigned. And the new policy merely changes the unassigned to the assigned there. And it will reflect differently in our financial statements as we move forward, subject to this approval. V9, types of contracts. The current policy is stated there. The new policy talks about lease contracts as well as owner contracts relative to the new capital RFA that's being proposed to be sent out, and it gives some language regarding that. Advances. The current policy is shown as exhibited there. The new policy changes are here, and there's several of them that I'll summarize just briefly. The first one in BI, that JWB approval on project-by-project basis up to the board approved a maximum award. And number 2 there, request for advance funds shall be included in the RFA that's submitted in the agency's proposal. Requests for advance funds will be considered up to the highest expected monthly expenditure by the agency award, in number 3. In number 4, all funds that will be added to complete a project, if there's other funds to be included other than JWB funds, those funds will need to be spent first before JWB dollars will be spent. In number 5, each proposal will come with a detailed project schedule as well as a detailed draw schedule, so we know how quickly we get into the money and funding the project. And in number 6 there, an agency must repay the entire amount if they get an advance before the end of the project. The offset will be on the final request for reimbursement under this advance policy. And that concludes my presentation on policy changes.
Any questions or comments on the policy changes? Do I have a motion to accept the new policy changes?
So move.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Next, we will go to the item C, which is to approve the agreement with SHI International Corp. For technology products and service.
So I've got the memo just highlighted there, and there's a lot of verbiage to that. I'll do a brief summary for you and pull some bullet points out, the high points. The proposed SHI agreement will provide contract for JWB to purchase IT software, hardware, and other related services. The proposed SHI contract will replace JWB's existing agreement with Omnia Partners. The pricing and terms of this agreement is capped at $1.2 million. The proposed SHI agreement will run through October 1st, 2024 through February 27th, 2028, with 3 additional 1-year options to renew. The total amount, as I indicated, will not exceed $1.2 million over the life of those 3 years and any renewals. This is not an exhaustive agreement. All JWB can seek quotes and other services from other vendors as his contract is maturing and is executed. The proposed SHI agreement has been negotiated and is accepted to the vendor as well as to JWB and its counsel. And I'll refer any other questions that you have. I'm glad to try to answer those. Refer to counsel here in the room if you have any questions regarding that.
So move.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. Next, we will move to approve the FY24 budget amendment for $150,000 to ELC.
Good afternoon. I'm so used to saying good morning, but good afternoon. Karen Boges, Chief Program Officer. So I will read the recommended action first to approve fiscal year 24 budget amendment for $150,000 to the Early Learning Coalition of Pinellas County for the School Readiness Plus program from the Family Services Initiative. So the Early Learning Coalition of Pinellas County School Readiness Plus program provides child care scholarships to low-income birth to 5-year-olds prior to kindergarten whose family income is less than 300% of the federal poverty level, and they also are ineligible for the state traditional school readiness program. This program expands eligibility for early learning programs to serve additional asset-limited, income-constrained employed families, which we refer to as ALICE families. And the scholarships are for full-day, full-year early learning program attendance. In the beginning of fiscal year 24, the program was serving around 90 children, and the expectation was through attrition they would be able to be within their allocation. However, some trends have happened over this last year. They are currently serving around 250 children, and many of the children are now in the ages 0 to 3, which are more expensive children. They're also staying longer. In addition to that, a number of families that they are now seeing are not eligible for the traditional school readiness. So both of those are impacting kids moving off of the School Readiness Plus program. So with that being said, we also understand that ELC has a current wait list for the School Readiness Plus program. So we are gathering information and working through numbers for that, which we are going to come back to the board probably either October or November with an update on that and where that status is. And the dollars are being moved from Family Services Initiative because the projection of lapse in that program. So with that said, I will open for any questions. Oh, and I would be remiss, Lindsay Carson is here from ELC, and she is the CEO.
Any questions or comments for either of the ladies? Do I have a motion? Motion to approve. Do I have, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you.
Next, we will move on to the next item, and that's to adopt the JWB fiscal year 2025 goals by Ms. Houghton.
Not to be confused with the goals that I'll be bringing you in October, probably November timeframe for my goals for the year, which some of them are truly specific to me, but most of them are organization-wide goals. These are goals that we are required by a new statute, new legislation. Florida Statute 189.0694 mandates that special districts establish goals and objectives for each program and activity undertaken, and then performance measures and standards to determine if we've met those goals and objectives. That is as specific as the statute is, so it's incredibly broad. The requirement is that those goals are established by October 1st of 2024, and that we report on them for this next year by December 1st of 2025. Now, that timing had a huge impact on which goals we are suggesting that be established for JWB for this year. And I say that because the 2-month time frame between our year end, September 30th, and December 1st is completely inadequate for our measurement of a number of our goals across our programs, for instance. We get specific participant data or external data by, often by late November, and then need time to analyze that data, scrub it as it were, analyze it, and make sense of that. So there were certain kinds of goals at a more granular level we were not able to include in these, but we believe we've included 4 goals that are real, that are meaningful, and tell the community about the work that we do. So the first is just the total number of children and families that we serve. And so the number we have tagged there, our goal and objective would be that by September 30th, 2025, a total of 62,000 children and families will be served through our programs. And we say how it is we would, we would find that out. And the data submitted by JWB to JWB by funded agencies would be how we would know those metrics. The second is our program monitoring, which is key to how we do what we do, and that's that we would conduct comprehensive program monitoring and issue reports for at least 95% of our programs for fiscal year 24. So that's the year that's going to be ending soon, but that takes months to get through that. So what we're saying is for the fiscal year 24 programs, 95% of them we will have completed and published monitoring reports along with performance measurement, and you see those here at the board table. Turbo Babies, our goal for the Turbo Babies campaign is that we would accomplish a reach of 25%, and we give the number there, of all children birth to age 3 in Pinellas County by September 30th, 2025. And we measure that by the number of pit crew bags and other campaign collaterals that are distributed. And then our fourth, which is a huge lift and effort for us internally and for you this year, is that we will develop a new 5-year strategic plan for fiscal years 26 through 30 to guide the work and investments of JWB and its partners. And we will have that plan approved by the JWB board by September 30th, 2025. We actually hope it'll be in the April-May timeframe, but depending on where it leads and what other inquiries you all might have, we're giving you a little extra time. So these are the 4 goals and objectives that we propose to you that you establish pursuant to the Florida statute.
Any questions or comments based on the goals? Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll move on to the next, and that's to adopt the revised FY25 regular board meeting schedule. Ms. Beth?
Well, we had to take 2 on this one. You have approved this board schedule before. The change is for the June meeting that had previously been on another date, that is Juneteenth, and conflicts not only with that holiday, but with days that at least a few of our agencies represented, our ex officio members around this table, have as a day off or as a holiday. So we are moving the June meeting to Thursday, June 12th, 2025. And because it is our formal meeting schedule, it comes to you for your approval.
Any comments, concerns, or questions with the new June date?
There's 2 Junes.
Yeah, there's 2.
And neither one of them is the 12th.
What?
On the, oh, in the board packet, there is,
So June 19th, June 26th, but now to June 12th. So, okay,
yeah, that's finance.
so the 19th,
Oh.
we moved to the 12th.
Yeah, the
Yes.
Otherwise,
19th
they're all
is
together.
as formal as this was put out, but, yeah.
Move approval.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. I know Ms. Marlowe has to run out right quick before she comes back, so thank you for staying for the vote. Next, we will go to our presentations, and we will start with Family Service Initiative by Ms. Evioli.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Janine Evoli, and I'm the Director of the Family Services Initiative, also known as FSI. I'm here today with a couple of our FSI internal team members to present an overview of FSI, an update, and also report on some data trends. Before I get started, I just did want to just acknowledge that we do have representatives from Personal Enrichment through Mental Health Services and Gulf Coast Jewish Family and Community Services here with us today. They are two of our FSI partners. I also wanted to give my team members a chance to just come up and introduce themselves briefly. Dacia?
Hi, everybody. My name is Daciel Medina, and I am the senior program evaluator working with FSI.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gloria Rosario, and I am the program consultant assigned to the FSI programs.
All right, so with that said, I just want to get started here. But before I do, I just want to mention that approximately 50% of our Pinellas County households are struggling to meet their basic needs. We know this from the United Way Alice report. I know Karen had mentioned this as well a few minutes ago. That is the Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed report. So these are families that are working and are below the Alice threshold and are really one unexpected event away from crisis. These are the families that FSI assists on a daily basis. So I did want to provide a little bit of history for those of you that are newer or unfamiliar with FSI. It was created back in 2011 during the Great Recession. At that time, there was an economic downturn that really created a lot of financial instability for a lot of our low-income families. And they were needing to reach out to social service agencies at a time when there was limited resources available. JWB was looking to create an innovative solution to try and address the growing need of families. So FSI was formed at that time, excuse me, as a collaborative to assist families in finding and accessing the right service at the right time during that economic downturn, financial instability, and inadequate safety net supports. So here we have our guiding principles. Just want to say that FSI is a partnership focused on quality service delivery, easy access for families, innovative technology, utilization management, and fiscal accountability processes. What we see is a family is managing, maybe living paycheck to paycheck, something unexpected happens that really pushes them out of their ability to meet their basic needs. There are several ways to access FSI, so when we talk about no wrong door, I'll talk about that on the next slide. So at this point, go ahead. All right, so who is FSI? FSI has a very large partner network. For this particular presentation, we're going to focus on our core partners and our side door partners. JWB is the organizational backbone of the collaborative. We also provide funding and oversight. We staff positions at Personal Enrichment through Mental Health Services and Gulf Coast Jewish Family and Community Services. We also have an FSI resource pool available to assist families with basic needs and purchase goods and services on their behalf. So in terms of our funding for PEMS, we fund FSI Connect, which is our front door of FSI. We also have FSI System Navigators, and through a partnership with Pinellas County School Board, We have family connection navigators, which are place-based navigators assigned to 9 of the Title I elementary and middle schools. We also fund Gulf Coast for system navigation services. So moving over to our side door partners, these are programs that are providing family support services or case management services, and they have access to the FSI resource pool to assist their families with basic needs as identified. FSI is a collective partnership that maximizes Pinellas County resources to assist families' immediate needs and well-being. In addition, it meets a family in a way that's streamlined, responsive, timely, efficient, and compassionate. FSI prevents problems from compounding for a family, saving the system money in the long run and helping families every day. Okay. All right, so here I want to take a few minutes to share our FSI eligibility. You can see it's posted in the top box. Also along the bottom, we have our FSI system flow. So just want to talk through that for a few minutes. I mentioned FSI Connect, that is our front door. Families can access FSI Connect by calling a local 888 number or submitting an online form. Our Access Navigators, which are FSI Connect navigators, will complete that initial screening with families, and then if the family appears appropriate, they'll be referred to System Navigation for a more thorough assessment. At that point, the navigators will obtain information to verify and confirm eligibility. I did want to take a couple minutes to just talk about a few of our eligibility items, specifically the last 2 bullets. The sustainability and qualifying event are really 2 items that separate FSI from a traditional financial assistance program. We do have working definitions for FSI of sustainability, that a family's monthly income is equal to or more than their expenses, or probable it will be within the next 30 days. That income must be verifiable, and the family must have a plan to maintain expenses if the current assistance is provided. And typically, those navigators will work on creating and identifying that sustainability plan with the family. We do have an exceptions process in place, so if there are any extenuating circumstances with that family, we can review it on a case-by-case basis to see if we're able to assist the family. The other item I wanted to just briefly mention is qualifying event. That is that unexpected event that really pushes a family out of their ability to meet their monthly expenses. It really creates an emergency financial situation for them. The other eligibility item we have, and it's kind of in parentheses under income or benefits, verify according to poverty guidelines. Families coming through FSI would need to be within 250% of the federal poverty level. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Glory to share some additional information about our system navigation teams.
Thank you, Janine. So what do system navigators do? The Family Services Initiative really aims to enhance family stability by eliminating barriers. A system navigator first builds trust with participants by demonstrating empathy, consistency, and a genuine commitment to their well-being. Utilizing the Self-Sufficiency Matrix tool, SNs discuss and identify domains of need with families. You will later hear more about this tool and how it is utilized by navigators. After identifying areas of need, navigators then develop detailed family support plans and task sheets that outline SMART goals and steps for both the navigator and the family to complete in order to achieve the goals. Additionally, utilizing the community resource pool mentioned before by Janine, SNs provide linkage to community resources and supports to address the immediate and ongoing needs of families. Keep in mind that system navigation service duration is brief, generally lasting between 30 to 45 days. System navigators provide an array of services that help to immediately stabilize families and meet their needs while also promoting long-term stability. This flow chart illustrates the work often conducted by FSI navigators. In this case, a single mother with 2 special needs children ages 9 and 11 was facing imminent eviction due to unpaid August rent and a late fee. The landlord expected payment by September 1st to stop the eviction. This case scenario is a perfect example of how an unexpected event can change a family's circumstances. The family experienced a loss of income due to emergency vehicle repairs and non-payment by a subtenant who moved out in July. Imagine what it was like for those children to not know if they would have somewhere to sleep in September, or for their mother to wake up every morning dreading yet another letter from the landlord. When connected to an FSI navigator, families can better navigate systems and think quickly about potential solutions. In this case, the navigator confirmed the participant's eligibility by verifying her income and employment. While verifying her income, the navigator found that the client had been recently promoted and would be earning more money, and therefore would be sustainable. The navigator conducted an intake and completed the self-sufficiency matrix with the client to identify strengths and areas where the family may need additional support. During intake, the client expressed concerns with access to food and clothing for her children. The navigator provided referrals to community pantries and other social services organizations to meet those immediate needs. Financial education and housing options were also discussed. The client completed a Money Smart course, which focuses on helping individuals and families enhance their financial skills. Additionally, potential for subsidized housing was also mentioned, and a referral to Habitat for Humanity was completed. The family may have been evicted absent FSI services. The navigator submitted a financial assistance request application to JWB. The application was reviewed, approved, and the eviction was prevented. Our FSI partners met last June to review JWB requests to expand services and improve alignment across FSI programs. This resulted in both Gulf Coast and PEMS conducting a detailed walkthrough of their system navigation services from intake to closure to align protocols and practices. Both organizations shared best practices, resulting in a unified service flow that utilizes the most effective methods from each organization. Both partners are actively exploring ways to provide additional wraparound services which holistically address various interconnected family needs such as housing, financial assistance, mental health services, education, and employment. Core partners have also agreed to implement consistent financial education, budget development, and attendance works programs, and to incorporate local resources into all family support plans. There is also a renewed focus on increasing in-person services, which has resulted in the development and implementation of monthly parent support groups. Ultimately, these changes aim to create a consistent and seamless service delivery experience for all families served by FSI. I will now turn it over to Daciel to go over the Family Services Initiative data and trends.
Thank you, Gloria. I'm going to fix this a little bit because I'm a little taller. So today I'm here to provide an overview of the demographic trends we've observed over the past 3 years. This analysis is crucial to understanding how the programs are evolving and how we continue to enhance our supports for families in need. Over the past 3 years, we've seen an increase in the average length of stay for families engaged with navigation programs. As Gloria mentioned before, this reflects both the complexity of the cases that navigators are dealing with, as well as a focus on delivering a more holistic support system to ensure long-term sustainability and positive outcomes for these families. Additionally, and similarly, the data shows an upward trajectory in the number of service transaction requests. The rise is an indication of the growing needs within our community and the positive impacts that FSI is having in providing crucial assistance. When we look at the top 3 types of service transaction categories, we see that they've remained steady for the past 3 years. For FY24, the primary areas of support continue to be rent at 44%, utilities at 23%, and food assistance at 12%. This shows a critical need within these categories, and it helps us to prioritize our resources accordingly. In summary, these trends provide a picture of the evolving landscape of this initiative. They reflect both the growing demands for our services and the effectiveness of our enhanced wraparound approach. One thing I want to remind everybody in the room is that behind these numbers lies the stories of families facing real struggles and finding hope through our supports. One more? All right, and I promise I'm not going to present a blank graph. I'm going to explain it before, and then I'll bring in the data. So this graph details the overall average service dollars spent by household per year for all categories, as well as for the top 3 service categories I just reviewed, which are rental assistance, utilities, and food assistance. Please keep in mind that the FY24 data is inclusive of 10 months rather than 12, since FY24 is still not completed. So, however, we do anticipate an increase in these numbers based on the monthly amount averages and the transaction request increases. All right, so I bring in the data now. Overall averages have increased over the past 3 years, though FY24 shows a dip. This may be attributed to the remaining months of data still yet to be included. When it comes to rental assistance, we've observed a notable increase in this department. I'm sure we've all felt it. So from an average of 2,262 in FY21 to 3,234 in FY24, this reflects a 972 rise in just 4 years due to the rising housing costs within the county. When we look at utilities, we also see a slight increase, and a rise in utilities aligns with the housing trends. And then when it comes to food assistance, we see more stability in this, and we are attributing this to JWB's efforts within childhood hunger initiatives, which you'll hear a wonderful presentation of today, and we're looking forward to hearing it. This data highlights the challenges faced by our community, but it also highlights the resilience in responding to these challenges. All right, so here we present a map of FY24 through August. This highlights the top 5 zip codes with the highest number of service requests. This also provides an overview of the greatest service demands occurring within our county. This map helps us to identify key areas of need and target our resources more effectively. So as Gloria mentioned, FSI core partners use the Arizona Self-Sufficiency Matrix to evaluate families on 15 domains of need, which are listed on the slide, using a Likert scale from 1 in crisis to 5 thriving. This assessment is conducted both at entry into the program or pre-assessment and at closing of the service or post-assessment. Scores of a 1 or 2 indicate a need for additional resources or services, and scores of 3 to 5 indicate stability and progress. Our goal is to show progress between entry and closing scores, demonstrating an improvement in the family's overall stability following wraparound services. So let's see how we did. All right. So for this example, we're using FY23 data, providing a thorough year of analysis that has been fully evaluated. The blue bars represent entry into the service average scores or average pre scores, while the orange bars illustrate the closing of service average scores or average post scores. The results show that the intervention had a positive impact across 14 domains, with just 1 remaining unchanged. This is fantastic improvement. And with that, I want to give our core partners a round of applause. This increase from entry to closing averages demonstrates significant improvement in family sustainability. These findings confirm that our efforts are making a real difference, equipping families with the support that they need to overcome challenges and build a brighter, more stable future. I also have some updates in terms of FSI Connect. So FSI Connect continues to increase engagement with rising numbers, both in calls and online applications. And I'll review this with some graphs that I have in some of my next slides. I've also listed some of the top reasons for ineligibility in FY24. So we'll start with no qualifying event, and as Janine defined it, this request lacks an unexpected event that leads to an emergency. Secondly, we have no sustainability plan, so family has no plan, so short-term assistance will not lead to long-term stability. And then lastly, we have no response, which means families who are eligible just don't respond. So when families are not eligible for FSI, they are still supported through community referrals. This ensures they receive guidance and resources from local services that can help address the needs effectively. All right, so as promised, here's some data in terms of FSI Connect calls. We've observed a seasonal pattern in the volume of FSI calls, notably during the summer months. This increase is primarily due to the school break and the rise in rent and utility costs during this time. Similarly, we have online applications now. So we see a similar trend when it comes to online applications, where the increased volume during peak periods just highlights the growing demand for FSI services. So with this, I'm going to pass it over to Glory.
So moving forward, JWB will, of course, continue to work with our FSI core partners to identify ways to create more opportunities for holistic family support and in-person services. We will also continue to monitor community trends to ensure that FSI continues to effectively address identified family and community needs. We are excited to continue working with our FSI core partners to fortify the initiative and to continue to support Pinellas County residents amidst growing financial challenges. We'll now take any questions or comments.
Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, thank you. Great job. Next, we have a presentation regarding our Grand Families events, and that's Ms. Garcia.
Good afternoon, Yaridis Garcia again with you. And with me here co-presenting is Jomar Lopez, our senior strategic researcher. We are going to share with you some of the highlights from our Grand Family events that just happened last spring throughout the county. This is a good feeling presentation. But before, I would like to acknowledge the planning team represented by the community councils, North, Mid, and South, representatives from Children's Home Network, Larry Cooper, who was also a panelist at the North County event, Help Me Grow, the City of Pinellas Park, the City of St. Petersburg, neighborhood family centers, JWB staff, and other community leaders who were involved in the planning and execution of these events. Thank you for your ongoing support and connections in your respective communities. I would also like to remind you, last year, Dr. Barbara Morrison Rodriguez spoke to you about the growing or the increasing number of grandparents raising their grandchildren and how they are facing some challenges as they need to navigate different systems while raising their grandchildren. The Community Engagement Unit started working with Dr. Gail Ingraham, and we started gathering some data and brainstorming about the best approach to organize these events. We wanted to reach out to this population, engage them in these events, and find out if they identify with the following quote. Shortly after I became responsible for my granddaughter, I became a widow and needed help. Trying to go out and find resources to take care of her was confusing and a lot of work, especially understanding the application process. With that, we have an agenda for you today. We're going to cover some of the data. I'm going to speak about the events. Jomar is going to give you an overview of the survey results and what are we planning the next steps. Our grand families are facing a lot of challenges, some of the challenges that you heard from the FSI presentation. But on top of that, they were not ready to take on responsibility. They thought the job was done. Now they have a grandkid, and they care about those grandkids, and they want to do the best for the grandkids to thrive in their community. We know that there are challenges with navigating the school system and the legal system, mental health, medical, and sometimes they don't have the legal documentations for them to find assistance in their community. I wanted for you to see these events that you're going to see, they were data-driven. We want to find out how the percentage of grandparents raising the grandkids, and it was I was shocked. And when we were doing interviews, the reporters, they didn't know that this is happening in our own backyard. I'm going to bring two numbers in there. Almost 10% of children are living with their grandparents. This is just Pinellas County numbers. And around 60,000 grandparents are living with their grandchildren. So why do we want to do these events? We have a purpose. One of the biggest purposes, we wanted to have access for those families to have access to community resources. We want to improve the service delivery in Pinellas County. We want the grand families to learn strategies to advocate for their families, but above all, we want them to have fun. We want to celebrate them. And we have a budget of $45,000 to make this happen. Now I'm going to give you you probably have heard me saying grand family, grandparents, and we use the terminology interchangeably, but the planning team, they brought to our attention that besides grandparents, there are extended families who are also raising kids. Those are the uncles, aunts, nephews, older siblings. They're taking responsibility of children. So when we draft our flyers, we name the events Grand Families. And Jomar, if you can go back, I want to highlight the logo that we created with our amazing communication teams. We had the logo represented. Grand families are the foundation for our kids. And we actually have a council member who listened to me. We'll talk to you later on. Carol She is wearing one of our T-shirts. We want to highlight, volunteers wearing the T-shirts for the event. Thank you, Carol. But I want to bring that to your attention because we wanted this to be also a celebration of our grand families. So in North County, we listen to the community. Instead of having one big event, we have 3 events because Pinellas County is very diverse. So we decided to have one event in North County led by Joanne Rich and her planning team made out of community councils and other community leaders. And they want to have a special luncheon. They decided they want to be very intimate, a smaller venue, and they wanted to have a panel discussion. And like I mentioned before, Larry was there to answer questions from the grand families if they have questions about how to navigate the system. They want the grand families to feel welcome. They have a beautiful venue, and they work with small vendors. And sometimes JWB, we are not used to work with small vendors, but they learn so much from us at the same time that we learn from them. I just want to highlight that we couldn't have done this without our procurement team. They were amazing because they keep us away from all troubles, especially with contracts. So I couldn't be more happy. And I just want you to see in there that it was a community effort. Then Mid-County. What did they decide? Hey, Mid-County's in the house. They decided the theme of it was the simple act of caring is heroic. They want to celebrate, and they created the logo with we are heroes. Grand families are heroes, and they decided we want to do it in May. May the 4th be with us. It's Star Wars. So you see the Star Wars characters there, and just to see the grand families, the kids, the staff, the volunteers, when they saw the characters coming, it was just amazing. But we have community resources. 39 community resources, they came there to bring resources, information to grand families. But every family that attend those events, they walked away with a swag bag, Jomar, if you can bring it, full of stuff, if I want to say, items for them to take. But most importantly, in the swag bag, they have the community resources that with all the community resource providers that came to the event, with the website, the phone number, that way if they couldn't talk to the providers back then, they can have this as a reference. And we have some of these resources booklet left over the summer, and we asked the community council, I don't want to throw this away, what can we do? Well, we distributed this during the back-to-school events, and families, they were just fascinating to see these community resources. Then South County, they decided they want to have a game day, and they did that in Lake Vista Park in St. Petersburg, where the family can have fun, but they also have community resources. They also work with local vendors and community councils, JWB staff, our youth leadership. Probably you have heard my staff, Kelly Roy, who led the South County event. One of her youth she was a stellar volunteer during the event, and she also asked her grandmother, picture in the middle, you have to come to this event, Grandma. She is raising 8 grandchildren. She has the most beautiful smile. She is our spokesperson, and she came to was in TV talking about her experience as being of a grand family. Because our unit, we are connectors. I came back to Kelly and I said, that youth, she is amazing. She is connecting generations, and she needs to be recognized. In August, we just have our Embracing Our Changing Community conference, and we thought of this youth, and she received a scholarship to go to FAMU because she wants to be a forensic psychologist. Full circle. So with that, now that you heard some story, I have Jomar, who's going to give some numbers behind the Grand Families events.
Good afternoon, board members. Jomar Lopez, Senior Strategic Researcher here at JWB. I am going to walk you through the results of the evaluation that we conducted at the 3 distinct Grand Family activities. So I'd first like to say that this evaluation served 3 purposes. The first was to assess our reach through these activities and also gauge what types of caregivers we recruited to these events. The second was to gather any information regarding the challenges that these caregivers are facing within the county, and this is going to help us with future resource provision. And then the third objective is to assess the satisfaction at the events, which is going to help us for future event planning. So I really want to thank the community councils for being here and for providing so much information to me to make this such a fun experience. Their feedback really helped with the surveys in terms of ease of completion, literacy level, and also the languages that we provided. Now, looking at location, we have an approximate count of 567 attendees at the event, and we gathered an approximate 183 responses. So we have approximately a 32% response rate. Of that 32%, 66% of respondents attended the South County Grand Families event. Please note that this was not only expected, but it was also intentional. For North County Community Council, they really wanted an intimate and more formal setting to gain more information, particularly on legal resources. And then in South County, they really just wanted a nice community event that was informal, relaxing, where everyone can join in on the fun. With language, we translated the surveys into 4 different languages. 92% of those surveyed responded in English, with some responding back in Spanish and even in Vietnamese. We did have the survey available in Portuguese, and though no one responded back in Portuguese, we are well aware that individuals of Portuguese descent were there at the events. And so once again, thank you to the community council members that helped with those translations. We looked at the types of caregivers that were present at these events. As you'll see, most, 41%, were grandparents, followed by parents, yet we captured some other extended family members, aunts, uncles, siblings, and other individuals reported as a family member, a foster parent, a great-grandparent, service provider, and spouse. And here we show the extent of our reach through these activities. All the zip codes that we reached are marked in orange for you. We captured 36 unique zip codes throughout the county. That is just under half of all zip codes within Pinellas County. Most participation was from 33705, which is marked in the bottom right corner in blue for you all. In addition, you'll see that by the small yellow houses where each Grand Families activities took place throughout the county. The community councils are already informed of this, and without any rest at all, they're already thinking about how to move these events around in order to capture some of those gray areas that we didn't have any participants from. There were a variety of marketing and advertising approach for these events, yet 61% of respondents mentioned another source through which they heard about the event. That included word of mouth, JWB funded agencies, postcard, printed media such as flyers, community-based organizations, for example, libraries, faith-based organizations, for instance, churches, emails, and passerby. So what do we mean by passerby? Passerby means people wanted to partake in the fun. They are seeing these events out in the community, they're seeing a lot of joy and happiness, and they want to be there. And that was actually a very effective modality for recruitment to these events. And to the community council's great knowledge about their areas, we looked to see if there were any sort of regional differences when it came to marketing and advertising. And what we see is that there are some universal approaches that had impact throughout the county, yet there were some unique differences by county area. Particularly in North County, you'll see that newspapers were a great resource for recruitment, whether it was electronic or printed. In Mid-County, the utility bill insert that residents received was a strong tool as well. And lastly, in South County, social media was a significant contributor to recruitment at these Grand Families events. Next, we captured the challenges that these caregivers are facing within the respective communities. The 3 most reported was food, in this case, ensuring food security for the children in the household, particularly for grandparents who may be on a fixed income, or for some of these extended family members that may be dealing with the woes of current inflation. In addition is the children's behavior. The community councils reported to me that the children's behavior, particularly that trauma of being pulled from the parent's home, is being noted within their households. But then there's also just that bit of a grandparent needs that respite. And lastly is the academic support. So here what we're referencing is the grandparents' difficulty with navigating school services, and in addition to that is seeking any supplemental support to help with the child's academic performance. Once again, the community councils had a hunch that there would be some challenges unique to each area. And so we did see some universal differences, particularly with food and academic support. But in North County, they reported more about the children's behavior and counseling. What do we mean here by counseling? We're talking about not only the access to counseling services, but also insurance woes of paying for the counseling or just some legal issues with getting the child insured. In Mid-County, they reported more of the children's behavior and providing the child with clothes. And lastly, in South County, it's clothes as well as seeking counseling services. But on a good note, satisfaction was very high for these events. Event signs and organization received 100%. Lowest was activities with a 97.5, if we can even say that's low, and everything else in between. And lastly, we asked on these surveys if individuals look forward to future events, and not shockingly, 100% said yes. So what does this mean in terms of future considerations for these events? This means that knowing the marketing and advertising strategies that are most effective in recruiting communities to these events, we can really expand on them to recruit from some of those gray areas that we saw on the prior slides. In addition, knowing more in depth on these challenges, we can provide resources to these families, and the community councils are already looking into the possibility of a food drive at some of these activities. In addition to that, providing counseling resources, tutoring support resources, and something that significantly came up are the legal challenges that they have to deal with. All in all, taking this into consideration, it's really going to provide a more higher quality event. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to JWB to close us off and talk to us about the power of relationships.
Thank you, Yomar. Power of relationship. I think I mentioned that we have 45,000 to pull this event. I have to report that we were under budget. We didn't spend near close to the 45,000, and one of the biggest reasons is the power of relationships that we have in our community, from small businesses through the city of Pinellas Park and the city of St. Petersburg. We had the venue for free. We just have to sign contracts, and they say, this is JWB, this is for our community, we don't need any funding. Tasco in South County, they facilitated all the games throughout the day. JWB staff, I think this project or these events touch every single department. And it was so rewarding to see so many volunteers, and you will see a picture in the last slide, of JWB attending these events. In the middle, you will see Jomar with the beautiful smile, and Lorraine, evaluator and procurement staff, they actually saw their labor. It's so different when you're writing a survey, but when you're collecting and you're seeing faces, and when you're writing a contract, Lorraine, she volunteered, as well as Gail, for the Mid and South event. And community councils, again, I don't have any more words to say, just thank you, and as well as the youth leadership. So where are we going from here? We are already planning our next events, 2025. Stay tuned for that, probably around the same time, March, April, and May, because it works. I just want to say these events represent JWB's multi-level community engagement. We connect grand families who are taking care of their grandchildren to protect the legacy of the future generations. Thank you for everything, and we're just here if you have any questions.
I have a comment. I want to say thank you guys for those events, because you know this is near and dear to me. Your spokesperson had recently lost her husband, so to pull it together and keep those 8 grandkids, it meant a lot to be there and to get the services that were offered, so thank you. Sorry. Next, we have the summer family food distribution by Ms. Hintz. Hintz, I'm sorry.
There we go. Good afternoon, everyone. Danielle Hintz, Community Collaborations Manager here at JWB. And I'm here to talk to you about the Childhood Hunger Initiative and all the exciting things we were able to accomplish together this summer. This is another feel-good report. And I want to talk to you a little bit what the initiative does and then go into what our results were. Next slide. So the need, first of all, we know that 1 in 5 children in the U.S. are food insecure. In Pinellas County, this number has gotten better, but I think a lot of that has to do with a couple of things. Our investment in more resources for food, our community collaboration with all of our partners and the work that goes into maximizing the use of the resources in our community, and being able to advertise more about where people can find food through food pantries and other means. So I think it's definitely helping. The cost of living, we've talked about this, the cost of living going up. Food is such an essential piece. If we want our kids to be successful in school and in our programs and with their behavior, we want to make sure, of course, that they have access to food. And recently, there's another report from USDA. So my figures up here are from Feeding America. USDA has a recent report that 13.5% of households are food insecure nationally, and that also includes what we just heard about, grand families, older adults, as well as families with children. And this has increased nationally over 3% for households in general. Right now, although we're going in the right direction, even the amount that we are seeing is still 18,000 plus children are food insecure and at risk for not knowing where their next meal is going to come from. So it's important that we continue this work, celebrate the successes, but continue. You know, during the beginning of COVID, we had summer EBT dollars that were provided with an extra $300 per child that really helped families so much. And we saw how those dollars were used so well, really for food and basic needs, tremendously helpful. Florida is one of the few states that did not accept the funding, and we continue to work on this and advocate. So I will talk a little bit about what Childhood Hunger is doing on that front to advocate, but we know how important that can be for families. We also know that our children can access food when they're in school. So breakfasts and lunches are provided, snacks, so that's an excellent resource. And so really the biggest time gaps for food are during the summer, and then, of course, breaks from school, weekends, and even in evenings and holidays. So we have a lot of gaps to fulfill. Our Childhood Hunger Initiative, with 30 partners at the table, has been growing and looking at filling all the gaps since 2014-15. So I'm going to have you, next slide, please. This is a little overview of our Childhood Hunger Initiative and what we are working on. And as you can see, in addition to what we've always done is look at increasing access to resources and really focusing on that summertime. We've also been focusing on teen food security. We've been working with the JWB Youth Council on some innovative approaches and also supporting local teen-based food pantries and neighborhood family centers and other places. But we also know, and this is really important work, is the advocacy piece. So we also have an advocacy committee that's been in place for going on 2 years, really looking at, yes, we can fill gaps, but what else can we be doing to have money stay in place that are needed for families? So that's the real beauty of this collaborative, and the work that's being done is during COVID and other times, and this summer will be a good example, when you have the right people at the table wanting to work together and you talk about what needs to happen, it can happen quickly as opposed to starting and trying to figure things out on your own. That's the third slide. Okay, we're good. So I talked about the major areas of focus. Slide 4, please. As mentioned, the biggest gap is summertime, and we've always really promoted those break spots. You know, when we had less federal restrictions, we were able to expand them in a lot of ways. During COVID, families could even get a whole week's worth of meals for their kids. So the numbers spiked, and that was amazing. But things have changed, and so our requirements are a little tighter. But despite all of that, we continue to market the break spots. And this year, and Jen Yegley is in the room from St. Petersburg Free Clinic for support for this effort, but we worked with them to develop web-based find-a-food pantry service. So you see the QR code on our flyer. We've always promoted break spots in a very easy way for families to text. We also publish the community break spots that are open, and we push those out throughout the summer. And this year we thought, let's add the food pantry piece, because really we should be helping families look at some more sustainable ways and access for food. So between all of our community partners and our community engagement team, we handed out almost 30,000 of these postcards this summer. And now the sites that we had this summer for break spots were 150 total. Let's see, our 4 local sponsors for break spots. We've got Pinellas County Schools is the largest by far, and then we also have Boys and Girls Club that is a local sponsor, the City of St. Petersburg Parks and Rec, and then locally with a few sites where we have Gaps Feeding, Tampa Bay steps in and helps us. And this is really exciting, new information. So throughout the summer, we were able to get out 419,000 meals to kids. And this is a 40% increase from last year, which is really amazing. So our partners that are pushing it out, those that are providing the meals, the school system, shout out to everyone, because that's a big increase. And it's the largest number we've had since COVID, when we had less restrictions. And I talked about our Find a Pantry map, so we can go to the next slide. Okay, so what did we do this summer? So we knew that the summer EBT wasn't going to be in place. We know that families that we talk about that are those 50% who struggle probably aren't even thinking that far ahead or know yet that this is not going to be happening. And we knew, our Childhood Hunger Initiative saw like this is going to be an even bigger gap and issue in the summer. So in late spring, we were talking about what can we do beyond marketing, and thought about what could we do maybe in the community. So our CEO, Beth, challenged us and said, we have resources. We are working with a partner that is very responsive, St. Petersburg Free Clinic. We can do some things. And they really worked to find accessible places. The idea was we wanted something like we always do in North, Mid, and South counties, so we're serving all families. And when you look at the logistics of what's needed for hundreds of cars to line up and to be able to do a process like this, you have to find the right location. And we decided to repeat the locations so that when families came, we could tell them, come back in a month, you'll get some more food. So these are our overall numbers. You can see that over 6,500 individuals were served, over 1,600 households. There's still gaps, of course, but being able to have something in the summer that helps supplement families when school is out was really important. And then the next slide, please. So by intention, the first of all of the food pantries, mobile food pantries, was at JWB. And this was really to allow us to use our communication connections and our connections with public officials and our board members to really start with getting the word out, making people understand what is this need, and getting some coverage in the media. And thanks to our great efforts from our communications team, we had 5 or 6 local news stories that came out that really, in addition to publicizing you can come for food, were about this is an issue in our community we need to understand. And we had some really great news coverage. We also, I want to recognize, so we had staff, of course, that were working with the hardworking St. Pete Free Clinic staff. Vic, who's always at our events, was a huge help with logistically with making all this happen. And then we had JWB staff volunteers, our community engagement team. I could go on, community council, getting the word out. And at this site, we also had our board members there. So I want to recognize Judge Moore and also Mr. McCurrick and also Chief Milliken. They stayed for the whole event. The first event, it was hot. It was outside. It was 9 to 12 on a Saturday on the pavement. And they were in the food line handing bags of food the entire time. So, and Mr. McCurrick even brought family members. I mean, we had JWB family, we had board members. And then also, working alongside us, we also had Commissioner Charlie Justice, you can see there, Representative Kim Bearfield, and her aide, Hallie, Judge Raymond Gross, and his grandson, Representative Lindsay Cross, Pinellas County School Board Chair Laura Hine, and Carol Buemiller, who has been involved with JWB for many, many years. So just a shout out to see, like, people came and actually helped. They got in their t-shirts and they were working for the day alongside all of us, and much appreciated. And I mentioned the news media, so if we want to, we're going to run a short video in a second, but this is just a collage of some of the photos that we have across the county with our partners doing the great work. And many of you recognize, you can see Joanne in the corner there, Judge Moore on the right, and then our other board members are featured, as well as Lynn Geist, who continues to be a major force in Pinellas County around food, although she's retired. We have a wonderful partnership, I want to mention, too, with the school system and all of our partners coming together. We just had a really great meeting last week talking about what do we do, what else can we do, and that's what makes this work. So I'll talk just a little after, but if you want to run the video, that would be great.
Number of families struggling to put food on the table keeps growing, and many families are forced to choose between paying a bill or going grocery shopping. The Juvenile Welfare Board and the St. Pete Free Clinic say that struggle grows even more when kids are out of school. Fox 13's Kylie Jones tells us about one food pantry working to fill that gap this summer.
Every single car that's going through this line has a story.
Hundreds of cars with hundreds of stories.
It takes a village to raise 5 kids.
The line of cars at the Pinellas County drive-through food pantry tells the story of the need in this community.
Pushing 50% of our families in the county are either at or below the poverty level, or most of those, about 35%, give or take, are at or below just a living wage.
This is the first of several mobile food pantries that the St. Pete Free Clinic is putting on with the Juvenile Welfare Board. CEO Beth Houghton says 1 in 8 children in Pinellas County is food insecure.
Summer is even worse because school is not in session all summer. Kids are at home more, and they don't have school food to rely on all the way through the summer.
Houghton says the two big gaps in the summer are right after school before summer school starts and at the end of the summer before the school year starts back up.
For every day, trying to make sure they're fed, make sure they have a roof over their head and everything.
On Saturday, families lined up to get fresh fruits, vegetables, eggs, meats, and other groceries.
It means a lot because a lot of us, it's kind of hard because I work, but still can't afford a lot of stuff, so with a little bit of extra help would help the community a lot.
Organizers say rising rent costs, prices at the grocery store, and everyday bills can often push food down to the bottom of the list. But on Saturday, hundreds of families left with bags of groceries and resources to help keep that support coming.
It's very, just incredibly touching. There are tears. There are bless you. There's always incredible gratitude. Often we hear, I don't know what I would have done without this.
In Pinellas County, Kylie Jones, Fox 13 News.
Kylie, thank you. The Juvenile Welfare Board and St. Pete Free Clinic are holding several other food distribution events throughout this summer. You can find those dates and locations on our website, fox13news.com.
So, representing the Childhood Hunger Initiative, I just want to say thank you for supporting this. As our board, our community council members, our community at large, our staff, I just think the work is really important. We've got to keep doing this work together and keep advocating for systems level change at the same time. Any questions, comments?
No questions, thank you.
Welcome.
Next, we have the CEO report by Ms. Houghton.
And we missed a month, so I might be a little bit longer. First, I wanted to share a new federal report that falls within and highlights the deep need for one of JWB's focus areas, children's mental health. The U.S. Surgeon General issued an advisory regarding parent and caregivers' mental health. Dr. Vivek Murthy, U.S. Surgeon General, recently issued a national advisory on the need to address the mental health and well-being of parents and caregivers. The advisory is an unprecedented and welcome step towards acknowledging the stressors unique to parenting, such as financial strain, time demands, and securing safe and quality care as a public health issue. Because as we well know, the mental health of caregivers and babies are inextricably linked. At JWB, we understand this connection, and we understand that supporting parents and caregivers supports healthy babies by ensuring healthy brain and emotional development. And we were glad to see the Surgeon General's policy recommendations, including a range of policies at the federal level, including his child and family agenda, the expanded child tax credit, quality affordable child care, paid family and medical leave, and increased mental health support. In order to send out the publicly noticed budget every year, the budget and millage, we have to cut off any changes we make or additions that we have to the JWB budget weeks before the August Finance Committee meeting, because our bylaws say the Finance Committee has to approve and recommend the budget and millage and so on to the board. So it backs up and backs up and backs up. So I'm saying this just as a precursor to the next month or two. So since then, since early August, and up through September 30th, we're likely to have new knowledge emerge, things that we didn't know about, things that are additions, things that are subtractions. And the way in which we handle those is to bring those back to you in October or later as budget amendments. Since then, and up through September 30th, we have always had some of those large or small. And the reason I'm mentioning it today is today is the second trim hearing, and you'll be approving that budget. And I want to let you know a few things I know that may come down the pike, so you don't feel like I was holding them back. Fortunately, on balance, they do balance out. Or as my dad used to say, 2 wrongs don't make a right, but here, maybe 2 wrongs do make a right. So I project that we will be bringing you 2 or 3 significant but perhaps offsetting amendments in October, maybe November. So first, for contract purposes, we reduced a few very large agencies' budgets with contra amounts to reflect the fact that given their size and given their history in lapsing, almost all due to positions not being filled, that we could in fact reduce their contract by maybe half of that historic lapse. The contract would be at that lesser amount. In their budget, they would see every position to the full amount and then a contra amount, a negative to balance it out. And so this was the first year we had done that. The way it was supposed to work in all cases was that the agency and within our specific program budget software and the work that we do, it would have the full budget, but the contract would be for the lesser amount, and the amount that went into JWB's total budget would be a lesser amount. Well, we missed on one of those. So the upshot is that that contra amount, that negative amount, for one of our agencies was over $900,000. Their contract was correct at that lower amount. The budget that they worked with was the larger amount as it was supposed to be, but the larger amount crept its way into the full budget that came to you and is what's been published and all the rest. So in other words, on that, there will be another one on the other side. On that, we have over budgeted expenses, we believe at this point, by about that $900,000. I expect we'll come to you in October and ask for that amendment to our budget. And then, unrelated to this, we had, for much of this last year, been planning for, or at least knowing we were going to do something significant around our data warehouse. Our data warehouse is just an old horse with really tired legs. I see people who work with it every day over there. It's been patched too many times. It's about 8 years old. None of its technology is current. It's on premises, not in the cloud, and so on. If it were just old but it worked great, that'd be fine, but it doesn't work great. It is hard for our hardworking people to get the data that they need or that we would benefit from as quickly or as in-depth as they might do. If I let one of them talk, they would go on and on, but I'll just kind of keep it at that high level. Data for JWB is such an important thing. It so informs what we do, what we recommend to you, changes we might make mid-year. And the system that we have doesn't allow us to move as quickly or it takes an extraordinary amount of effort to assure that the data we use and that we use to advise you is as dependable as we want it to be. I would tell you it's dependable, but that dependability does not come easily. It comes with a group of people who work extremely hard just to clean up data and so on. So through early this summer, we began working with, we identified and began working with a consultant. There had been thinking sometime before that our in-house people could do this, and we began realizing they are working the current system and cannot simultaneously be developing a new system. And with technology changing as quickly as it has, does, and will, we really wanted to shoot for where we ought to be going with technology and with people who develop these kind of systems all the time. So we identified a consultant. We have been working with that consultant consistently, and they're coming close to the time when they're ready to make specific recommendations to us. But then, of course, you have to implement those recommendations. And to say we had sticker shock would be an understatement. Yes, we had some funds reserved, but we didn't have the kind of funds we need, and we have done comparisons, and we will continue to do that. So the upshot, and Laura, make sure I'm straight, it's the cloud portion is about 200,000, and the rest is
implementation around 450.
okay. So around $450,000 to build this. Just by the by, when we did it 8 years ago, it was 400,000. So that's not radically different. And then putting it in the cloud on an ongoing basis is about 200,000 on an annual basis. So that being said, the overstatement of expenses on the one hand will more than cover the understatement on this side. I don't say that with pride. In both cases, I wish we'd either known earlier or we'd gotten it right earlier. But the fact is things emerge as we go along. We could have, and in October when I bring this to you, you can tell us, wait a year to do the data warehouse work. that's not what I would recommend to you. I think it's really critical to the work that we do, and we do better work when we have better data. But you will have that opportunity in October to make your decision. I just wanted to share that information today so you wouldn't think we were holding back. As is always the case, new circumstances may occur through the year. And if we think that the need or the requested need or the thought of need for more funding has merit, we will bring that to you with our recommendation, but with the clear respect for the fact that that is the budget, that is the board's decision to make as to whether or not to increase any given year's budget for things that are new or emerging. And often you have done that, but again, we do that with complete respect for your position. So now to some things that are just a little bit more fun. Oh, yes, of course.
And only because you're going to bring it back to us in October.
Yeah.
Does that include, from the cloud perspective, is that including the cybersecurity or security, data security included in that 200,000?
Yes, it is. Yeah, we're basically going to rebuild the security we have on-prem back up in the cloud.
Is that enough?
Yeah, and they actually made some recommendations to it because it's a little different. So, but yes, it includes all cybersecurity with our data.
I just wanted to make sure when we get it, you have it.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, we have sensitive data.
Yeah.
And it's critical that we're as careful with it as we reasonably can be.
Yeah.
The standard that we either already or NIST.
NIST standard, yes.
You want to explain?
Yeah, we were required, gosh, I want to say 2 years ago, to come up with a cybersecurity standard. And so we've been exploring what the best, way to do that. We are doing the same thing that Pinellas County BTS is doing. It's a NIST security framework, so we are in the process of inventorying our assets and classifying them and implementing that program. And I'll actually be back in a couple of months to tell you a little bit more about cybersecurity and what we're doing here specifically.
It's not that we're just starting with cybersecurity.
Oh, no, yeah.
Just to be clear, but rather that that framework is one of the national level frameworks, and we've chosen to use that as sort of a constant auditing and
Absolutely,
improvement
yeah.
mechanism.
Yep.
Okay. Some of us had.
I have a quick question. When you said sensitive data, do you mean like people's personal data?
We
Yes.
have PII and a little bit of PHI as well. So it's our participant data that we receive from our programs and do the evaluation and research on.
And none of us would ever be looking at, Chris Latvala's information. We use it in the aggregate, but we have it on that detail basis so that we can do the reports across and, look at different demographics and ages and other things. Pleased to share that JWB had 3 top finalists for Amplify Clearwater's recent Stellar Awards, and here you see them. And I'm proud to say our own board chair, Patrice Moore, was a finalist for the Carol Haig Achieve Hers Woman of the Year. JWB's, where are you? Stand up, come on. JWB's Strategic Initiative Director, Rebecca Albert, was a finalist for the Generation Amped Award. And I, representing JWB, I think, was a finalist for the Community Spirit Award. And I want to make sure I thank Brian Ongst, who lent us his table. Oh, he's not there. Lent us, so we'll say nice things about him when he's not here. Lent us his table so that that many of us and family and friends could be there. So while we did not take home top honors, we were privileged to be in the top tier of trailblazers and community leaders recognized for the impact we're making for citizens in North Pinellas County. Plus, it was an excellent opportunity to get JWB's name and mission out in front of hundreds who now know a little bit more about our history of strengthening Pinellas County children and families. Our staff have been very busy. You've heard some of this already, but have had a busy 6 weeks of activities and events, and I'll try to get through them all, but if not, we'll include some highlights in the next mid-month report. So here is our own Karen Bogus. What are you holding up, Karen? Maraca, of course, at our out-of-school time conference, which is much beloved by out-of-school time providers across the community. And of course, we had that for a number of years, and COVID put the kibosh on it. But we had an amazing conference that was both educational and clearly fun. It was led by Jamie Cole and her interdepartmental planning team, which is a nice way of saying everybody pitched in, and they did. So there were more than 300 out-of-school time staff in attendance. They enjoyed a Together We Rock theme, lively entertainment, inspiring keynote on the power of showing up for kids, presentation on managing difficult behavior, which we hear from virtually every sector that we work with, vendor overlay tables, and some swag provided by a whole variety of folks. We also unveiled JWB's partnership with Pinellas County Schools and their new digital responsibility curriculum and campaign, and shared that September is Start With Hello month, which encourages everyone to create a sense of belonging and connection with kindness. And in a few months, we'll report more once we've analyzed the conference's effectiveness and have gotten back surveys and analyzed those surveys. They always want to wait until all the surveys are done before I tell you about an event, but I like to tell you about it when it's a little fresher, and then we'll come back with the surveys. Turbo Babies events. Our Turbo Babies campaign held a well-attended refueling lunch and learn session for campaign partners on August 28th. And how many campaign partners do we have, give or take? Over 100 partners. So we started with like one partner. But that's amazing that we are connecting through all of these child-serving organizations. We then hosted 3 highly successful library storytime events for National Read a Book Day on September 7th. These racetrack read-along events attracted 150 families at public libraries in South, Mid, and North County, where they enjoyed lively storytime readings, free books, pick crew bags, refreshments, and family-friendly entertainment. And the libraries loved it. I mean, they always love the opportunity to show off their stuff. Oh, speaking of showing off their stuff, there's Mike McCurrick. Special thanks to board member Mike McCurrick, who gave welcoming remarks at our St. Pete West Library site, as joined by St. Pete City Council member Copley Gertis, St. Pete Parks and Rec Director Mike Jeffries, who we work a lot with, and special guest Morris from Great Exploration Children's Museum, who led it's on the right, by the way, who led a bubbly conga line, but you can see the bubbles there with the dad on the left. So great work by Alicia Henson and her planning team, comprised of staff from, once again, from all over, from community engagement, contract department, this is not in their job description, evaluation, procurement, and communications. It warms my heart, not only that we have these events for families and they are so appreciated, but how many JWB staff from all departments join in for these always off hours opportunities to be with their families and kids. On August 29th, Joanne Rich and the Focus Planning team hosted a wellness symposium at the Center for Health Equity Becky Albert moderated a panel on strengthening one's mental health, while 2 other panels discussed ways to nurture spiritual wellness and support families struggling with homelessness. And last but not least, on Friday the 13th, which it was not a Friday the 13th, our club Quelly ribbon cutting was held on that day. And I had the pleasure of speaking at the ribbon cutting for our community's newest Quality Early Learning Center at the Our Club Community Pride at Gateway. And JWB board member, Commissioner Chris Lutval helped cut the ribbon, alongside Clearwater Mayor Bruce Rector, City Council member Mike Menino, and Pinellas School Board member Caprice Edmond. JWB's funding will allow the center to offer high-quality early education and individualized care to infants and toddlers ages 2 months to 3 years, plus resources and support to their families. I'm so appreciative of this board's continued commitment to early childhood education. I'll shout out for Mike McCurrick especially, who keeps saying, so when's the next one? As we know, these early investments yield great returns. So thank you.
Next, we are at our information item section. Are there any questions, concerns, or does anyone want to address any of the items up under this section? No response, so then we'll go to our open agenda. Do we have any public comments? Okay, so now we'll go to our anniversaries and milestones by Mr. Bartlett.
Tessa Burnseed, 2 years. Carolyn Brink, 3 years. Jennifer Manick, 5 years. April Pazzulu, 11 years. Shannon Cohen Phillips, 19 years. Danielle Hines, 22 years. Okay, for August, we got Gail Cox, 1 year. Kristen Curley, 1 year. Tawanda Jones, 2 years. Jesse Strong, 2 years. Michael Havelka, 7 years. Joanne Reich, 7 years. Stephen Bailey, 8 years. And Deandra Dula, 10 years.
I have a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? No one's going to oppose that one. Don't leave.
Don't move.